See, you thought you were stuck, but God said, no, you're planted. You thought it was punishment, but he said, no, it's positioning. You are not behind, you're not forgotten, you're not overlooked. You are right where you need to be for God to show himself strong in your life. We live in a world that worships speed. Everybody wants to get there faster, do it bigger, make it happen now. We measure progress by how quickly we can post it, how instantly we can prove it, and how visibly we can show it off. But the kingdom of God doesn't move on our timeline. God doesn't rush destiny. He doesn't operate by deadlines or digital clocks. Divine timing is not about convenience, it's about completion. And sometimes the very thing that feels like delay is God's protection keeping you from arriving too soon. You see, when we plan our lives, we do from a limited perspective. We make our lists, our goals, our 5-year visions, but God sits outside of time. He sees every moment. The one you're crying in, the one you're celebrating in, the one you haven't even reached yet. And he weaves them together in a pattern that always leads to purpose. But because we can't see it all, we start questioning him when it doesn't look like progress. We start wondering, God, did I miss it? Did I take the wrong turn? Why does it seem like everyone else is moving faster than me? And God whispers back, you're right where I need you to be. There's something sacred about divine timing. It doesn't just happen, it's cultivated. God's timing is like a seed. You plant it in faith, you water it with prayer, and you trust that even when you can't see it growing, something is happening beneath the surface. We get so focused on visible results that we forget about invisible growth. We forget that the roots grow before the fruit shows. And if you rush what God is building, you'll get there before you're ready to handle it. Some of the greatest disappointments in life are actually divine delays disguised as denials. God says no because he loves you too much to let you self-destruct in success. Sometimes you're praying for the door to open, but God knows the room behind that door would crush you if you walked in too soon. Divine timing says, I'll let you in when you've learned how to carry what I'm about to give you. It's not punishment, it's preparation. Think about Joseph. He had a dream as a teenager, but it took years before he saw it fulfilled. He was betrayed, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, and imprisoned, yet every delay was divine. Every detour was direction. Because when the time came, Joseph wasn't just a dreamer, he was developed. He had integrity, wisdom, humility, and authority. What if God isn't denying dream? What if he's developing your character so that when the dream comes true, you can keep it? Divine timing requires trust. It demands that you surrender your calendar to the Creator. It's choosing to believe that God's not yet doesn't mean never. It's standing still when everything in you wants to sprint ahead. It's resisting the urge to compare your chapter 3 to someone else's chapter 30. You can't rush what's meant to unfold slowly. Sometimes God makes you wait because he's aligning other pieces of the puzzle that you don't even know exist yet. You might think you're ready for the next season, but God knows there's still something he needs to grow in you here. Patience is not a punishment, it's a promotion in progress. He's stretching your faith, refining your endurance, and teaching you to depend on him in the in-between. Because if you can't trust him in the waiting, you'll forget him in the winning. So many people abort destiny because they confuse delay with denial. But baby, God is too intentional to be late. He's never behind schedule. When it looks like nothing is moving, everything is moving, just not in your sight line. He's working in the dark, arranging, connecting, and preparing you for what's coming. That relationship that didn't work. It wasn't rejection, it was redirection. That job that fell through. It wasn't failure, it was favor in disguise. Every closed door is God saying, that's not your room, that's not your timing, that's not your burden to carry. We get frustrated when things don't happen when we want them to. But have you ever thanked God for what he didn't let happen yet? For the opportunities that looked perfect but would have destroyed your peace. For the seasons he slowed you down to save your soul. Sometimes the delay isn't about the destination, it's about your transformation. God is not just trying to get you there. He's trying to make sure that when you get there, you're whole, healed, and ready. It takes courage to wait. It takes strength to stay faithful when it feels like nothing's changing. But divine timing always rewards endurance. That's why the Bible says, be not weary in well-doing, for in due season you shall reap if you faint not. There's that word again, due season. Not your season, but not their season. That means it's coming right on time, not a minute early or late. So if it's not happening yet, maybe God is still preparing you, or maybe he's preparing it for you. Either way, trust that his hand is on the clock. You can rest knowing that the same God who gave you the promise is faithful to perform it when the timing is divine. He's not slow, he's strategic. He's not absent, he's aligning. Stop trying to manipulate what's meant to manifest. Stop comparing your pace to someone else's process. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it's not happening. The blessing you're praying for might already have your name on it. It's just waiting for the perfect moment to collide with your readiness. Divine timing isn't about waiting for things to happen. It's about becoming who you're meant to be when they do. Every moment in between is molding you, shaping you, stretching you into the person who can carry the weight of what you prayed for. Don't despise the process. Don't rush the plan. The waiting room is not wasted space. It's where your faith grows roots. So tonight, I want you to breathe. Take your hands off the wheel. Trust that the God who started it knows exactly when to finish it. He hasn't forgotten you. He hasn't skipped over you. And he hasn't changed his mind about you. You are not late. You are not behind. You are right on time in the timeline of heaven. And when it finally happens, when what you've been praying for, crying for, believing for shows up, you'll look back and realize that every delay was divine, and every moment in between was working for your good. Because divine timing is never wrong. There's a difference between being stuck and being planted. But when you're in the middle of the process, they can feel exactly the same. You look around, and nothing seems to be moving. The prayers you've prayed haven't been answered yet. The doors you've knocked on haven't opened. And the promises you're holding on to feel heavy in your hands. It's in that moment the enemy starts whispering, "See, you're not growing. You're forgotten. You're stuck." But what if you're not stuck at all? What if God has actually planted you? Because when something planted, it's not buried to die. It's buried to grow. When a seed goes into the ground, it disappears. It's covered in darkness, hidden from view, surrounded by dirt. To the untrained eye, it looks like it's over. But underground, something divine is happening. The pressure, the darkness, the waiting, all of it is part of the process that transforms a seed into something that can break through the surface. That's what God is doing with you. He's planted you in a season that feels uncomfortable, unseen, and uncertain, not to punish you, but to prepare you for what's next. We live in a culture that hates the dirt. We want spotlight growth, not soil growth. We love platforms, but run from preparation. But baby, there's power in the dirt. There's revelation in the soil. Because it's in the soil where God strips away everything that isn't necessary for the next level. It's in the soil where he grows your roots deep enough to sustain what's coming. If you only grow upward without growing downward, the first storm that comes will knock you over. God is anchoring you before he elevates you. You see, being planted is God's way of saying, I'm rooting you before I reveal you. It's not punishment, it's positioning. He knows the greatness inside you can't be rushed. You can't microwave destiny. You can't shortcut development. Growth takes time, and the soil season is sacred. That's where God develops the strength you'll need for the spotlight. That's where he teaches you how to depend on him when no one's watching. Because if you can't be faithful in the dirt, you'll never be fruitful in the light. You've been praying for fruit, but God is focused on roots. Because roots represent character, integrity, humility, endurance, the things that don't show up in a photo but hold up your future. You can fake fruit for a season, but you can't fake roots. And the reason God sometimes hides you is because he's protecting what he's perfecting. You're not forgotten, you're being fortified. He's letting you grow in silence so that when you emerge, you'll be unshakable. When a tree first breaks through the ground, it doesn't look impressive. It's fragile, small, easily overlooked. But give it time, and that same tree becomes something strong enough to provide shade for others. Maybe your small beginning isn't insignificant. It's just the start of something sturdy. Don't despise your dirt season just because it's not glamorous. The seed never complains about the soil, it just keeps growing. You've got to learn to grow in secret, to praise in the dirt, to trust in the darkness. Because if you can praise in the pit, God can trust you with the palace. Sometimes you think you're stuck because everything feels still. But stillness isn't always stagnation, sometimes it's strategy. God will pause your movement to perfect your mission. He'll stop your progress to strengthen your purpose. When you're planted, you may not see results immediately, but that doesn't mean nothing's happening. Growth is not always visible, it's often internal. You're learning patience, resilience, discernment. You're learning how to hear God clearly without needing validation from people. Being planted means surrendering your timeline. It means saying, God, even if I can't see what you're doing, I trust that you're doing something. It's letting go of the illusion of control and trusting the process of cultivation. The seed doesn't get to choose the soil, the depth, or the season. It just has to trust that the planter knows what he's doing. Maybe God has placed you in an environment that feels uncomfortable because that's where your growth will be the greatest. Maybe the job you hate, the waiting you despise, the season you wish away, all of it is the soil God is using to grow you. Every seed has a breaking point. Before it can grow, it has to crack open. That breaking isn't destruction, it's transformation. And maybe that's why you feel like everything around you is falling apart. It's not over, it's opening. God is breaking you open so what's inside you can come forth. The dreams, the anointing, the purpose. They're not gone, they're just being activated through the breaking. The same way the seed must be buried and broken before it blooms. You must go through seasons that stretch you before they reveal you. You are not stuck, you are settled. You are not abandoned, you are anchored. God is not ignoring you, He's investing in you. Every prayer, every tear, every silent night of faith is watering the seed of destiny that He placed in your soul. Don't dig up what God is still growing. Don't quit because it's quiet. The soil may be silent, but it's never empty. Heaven is working beneath the surface, orchestrating growth you can't yet see. In due time, what's been planted will sprout. The waiting will make sense. The dirt will become destiny. And you'll look back at the season you called stuck and realize it was the most important part of your story because it was there, in the dirt. That you learned how to pray without panic, how to believe without proof, and how to trust without understanding. When the fruit finally comes, you'll appreciate it more because you remember the dirt. You'll carry gratitude where you once carried frustration. And you'll be able to tell somebody else, don't give up in the ground. Your growth is coming. Because the truth is, planted seasons are proof that God still has a plan for you. So stop saying you're stuck. Start declaring, I'm planted. Because planted things rise again. Planted things break through. Planted things bear fruit in their season. You might not see it yet, but you're growing deeper, stronger, wiser. The soil is not your ending, it's your beginning. You may be hidden now, but when God says it's time, you will rise. And nothing will be able to stop what He's been growing in the dark. There are seasons in life when it feels like everything has come to a standstill. The doors that once opened easily now seem locked. The pace that once felt fast now feels slow. And the prayers that once felt powerful now feel like they hit the ceiling and fall back down. It's in those seasons that you begin to wonder if God pressed pause on your life. You look around and see everyone else moving forward, new jobs, new relationships, new milestones, and you start to question, God, what about me? Why am I still here? But what if the pause isn't punishment? What if its purpose is quiet? Still season is where God is doing His deepest work in you. Purpose is often hidden in the pause because the pause is where God prepares you for what's next. It's where He refines your motives, strengthens your faith, and teaches you the difference between movement and maturity. Just because you're not moving doesn't mean you're not maturing. Some of the most powerful growth in your life will happen in seasons where everything outside, but everything is transforming on the inside. God knows that purpose that isn't prepared is purpose that can destroy you. So before He releases you into your promise, He perfects you in your pause. We don't like the pause because it challenges our control. We want to be doing something, proving something, showing progress. But God says, be still and know that I am God. That's not a suggestion, it's an invitation. The pause is where He invites you to let go of striving and learn to trust His sovereignty. It's where He teaches you that His power is not proven in your pace, but in your peace. Sometimes God will stop you to save you from rushing into relationships that aren't aligned, from accepting opportunities that aren't ordained, from pursuing dreams that would drain you before they develop you. When God pauses your life, it's not because He's forgotten you. It's because He's protecting what He placed inside you. He's working on something that you can't yet handle. Think about a potter shaping clay. The clay doesn't decide when it's ready to be fired, the potter does. If it goes into the heat too soon, it will crack. If it goes too late, it will harden and become unworkable. Timing matters, and the pause is part of the process. You might feel like nothing is happening, but the pause is where God shapes your heart, molds your character, strengthens your foundation so that when He finally releases you, you won't crumble under the weight of what He gives you. There's beauty in the pause because it forces you to listen differently. When life is loud, we often miss God's whisper. But in the stillness, His voice becomes clearer. Maybe that's why He slowed you down, so you'd finally hear Him again. We pray for clarity, but clarity often comes when the noise stops. You can't hear divine direction when you're drowning in distraction. So God pulls you into the pause, not to silence your purpose, but to sharpen it. Some of you are in a season where everything feels uncertain. You're not where you used to be, but you're not yet where you want to be. You're in the in-between, and the in-between is uncomfortable because it doesn't come with clear answers. It's where faith is tested, where patience is stretched, and where trust becomes more than a word. It becomes your lifeline. The pause is God's classroom, and the lesson is always the same. Can you trust me even when I'm quiet? Because true faith isn't built when God is saying, yes. It's built when He's saying, wait. Awaiting seasons expose what you really believe. They reveal whether your hope was in the promise or in the promiser. Because when God pauses, the enemy will always try to fill the silence. He'll whisper lies, you missed it. You're behind. You're not good enough. But that's when you remind yourself that heaven doesn't measure progress by pace. It measures it by obedience. You're not behind, you're being built. You're not forgotten, you're being formed. Look at David. Anointed as king, but sent back to the field. Talk about a pause. God called him, but then sent him back to the sheep. Why? Because David needed to learn how to lead in private before he could lead in public. The pause was preparation. It was in the field that David learned worship, endurance, humility, and dependence on God. Without the pause, David would have had the crown, but not the character. The same is true for you. God will never give you something you're not yet equipped to handle, and the pause is his way of making sure you're ready for what's next. Purpose is hidden in the pause because that's where God works behind the scenes. When the stage lights go out and the applause stops, that's where authenticity is born. You don't find yourself in success. You find yourself in stillness. The pause allows God to strip away everything that's false so you can stand in what's true. It's where he shows you that your value isn't tied to your visibility. You can be unseen and still be chosen. You can be hidden and still be holy. You can be paused and still be progressing. If you're in a pause right now, don't rush to escape it. Don't try to force what God is still forming. Learn to lean into it. Ask him, what are you teaching me here? What do you want me to see that I would have missed if I kept moving? Because there's revelation in every pause if you're willing to look for it. And when the time is right, when God knows the lesson has been learned and the foundation has been laid, the pause will end. The door will open. The opportunity will come, and it will make sense why you had to wait. You'll see that what you thought was wasted time was actually sacred time. Every quiet moment, every unanswered prayer, every still season, it was all working for your good, so don't curse the pause. Celebrate it, because the pause means God is still writing. He's not finished with you. He's just taking his time making sure the next chapter is worth the wait. And when it finally unfolds, you'll be able to stand there and say, if it hadn't been for the pause, I wouldn't be this strong. I wouldn't be this grounded. I wouldn't be this ready. The pause is not the end of your story. It's the place where God breathes new life into your purpose. So be still, trust the process, and hold on to faith. The pause is temporary, but the purpose it produces is eternal. There are moments when you follow God faithfully, yet nothing makes sense. You pray, you fast, you obey, but the path he's taking you on seems to twist and turn in ways that leave you confused and questioning. You thought walking with God meant clarity, but instead, it's come with mystery. You thought obedience would bring comfort, but sometimes obedience brings you into chaos. And that's where faith gets real, when the route doesn't make sense, and you have to trust the one who drew the map. Trusting God when the route doesn't make sense means surrendering the need to understand. It means admitting that your perspective is limited, that you don't see the whole picture. We like to plan, to know, to control. We want step-by-step directions, but God rarely gives the full route. He gives us one step at a time, because if he showed you the whole path, you'd either run ahead of him or run away from him. So he leads you little by little, teaching you dependence, building your faith, and reminding you that the journey is just as important as the destination. Think about Abraham. Go to the land I will show you. No GPS, no confirmation, just a word, and Abraham went. That's what trusting God looks like. It's walking on a word, even when you can't see the way. You might not know where, how, or when, but it has to be enough. Because God's routes often look wrong before they make sense. The wilderness didn't make sense to Israel. The storm didn't make sense to the disciples. The cross didn't make sense to the world. But every confusing route was necessary for revelation. God doesn't lead us in straight lines. He leads us through shaping seasons. The detours are not delays, they're directions. The obstacles aren't obstructions, they're opportunities for obedience. Every twist in the road is intentional. He knows where he's taking you, even when you don't. But the challenge is you won't always feel his hand while you're walking the route. Sometimes he goes silent, not because he's gone, but because he wants to see if your faith can function without constant reassurance. Trust is not built when everything is clear, it's built when everything feels uncertain. When you're on a confusing route, you start questioning everything, your purpose, even your worth. You start comparing your journey to others and wondering why theirs looks smoother. But you don't know what God's protecting you from. You don't know what's waiting around the corner that he's rerouting you away from. Sometimes he allows detours because the direct route would destroy you. What feels like delay is actually divine deliverance. We like comfort, but God is committed to character. He'll use confusion to grow your confidence in him. He'll take you the long way because shortcuts produce shallow faith. You might not see it now, but the very road you're questioning today will make sense in hindsight. You'll look back and say, oh, that's why that didn't work. That's why that fell apart. That's why he made me wait. Every unanswered question will become evidence of his faithfulness. Sometimes you have to lose your sense of direction to find your dependence on God. When everything familiar fades, that's when your faith becomes functional. You stop trusting in your plan and start trusting in his presence. The route may not make sense, but his record is perfect. He's never failed you before, and he won't start now. You may not understand where he's taking you, but you can trust that he's taking you somewhere good. When the children of Israel were escaping Egypt, God didn't take them through the shortest route to the promised land. He led them through the wilderness, the long way, the confusing way, because if they had gone the quick way, they would have run back the moment they faced resistance. God needed to build something in them before bringing them into what he promised. The wilderness was not a mistake. It was preparation. The same is true for you. The detours in your life are designed to develop you. The places that feel like off track are actually where God is building your strength. Trusting God when the route doesn't make sense is not about pretending it doesn't hurt. It's about believing he's still good in the midst of it. You can cry and trust at the same time. You can question and still move forward in faith. Real trust is not the absence of doubt. It's the decision to keep walking even when doubt is loud. It's saying, God, I don't understand this, but I'll still follow you. Sometimes trusting God looks like standing still. Other times, it looks like taking a step into the unknown. It's waking up every morning and choosing to believe that his plan is better than your preference. You may not see what he's doing, but you can rest knowing he's doing something. The route may feel random, but nothing with God is ever wasted. Every delay, every disappointment, every detour, it's all working together for your good. You might be in a season where everything seems backward. The doors you thought would open have closed. The opportunities you were counting on have vanished. But here, this closed doors are just God's way of saying, that's not the route I'm taking you on. Trust that if he's closing it, he's guiding you somewhere better. The road may be rough, but it's still righteous. The journey may be confusing, but it's still covered by grace. And one day, when the dust settles and the pieces come together, you'll realize that every confusing route was a setup for something greater. You'll look back and see that what didn't make sense before was divine strategy. The pain, the pauses, the redirections, all of it was God leading you closer to purpose. The same road that made you question him will become the one that confirms his faithfulness. So if you find yourself lost in the middle of the route, take a deep breath and keep trusting. Don't let confusion make you quit. Don't let fear make you turn around. God's routes always make sense on the other side. You might not understand now, but one day you'll thank him for not letting your plan work. Because his plan was better, bigger, wiser, safer, stronger. Faith is not about understanding the road. It's about trusting the guide. And even when the road winds, twists, and seems impossible to follow, remember this: God never wastes a step. Every mile matters. Every delay develops you. Every detour directs you. So keep walking, even when it doesn't make sense. Because the God who started you on this journey will be faithful to finish it. There's something sacred about the waiting season, the space between who you were and who you're becoming. It's that in-between place where the promise hasn't yet shown up, but the preparation hasn't yet finished either. It's uncomfortable, uncertain, and often misunderstood. You feel the pull of purpose inside you, but the outside doesn't reflect it yet, and that tension can be hard to bear. But God often does his greatest work not in the arrival, but in the becoming. Because before he gives you what you've been praying for, he makes sure you've become the kind of person who can carry it. Becoming who you're meant to be in the waiting isn't easy. It means you have to face yourself, your fears, your impatience, your need for control. It's in the waiting that God reveals the version of you that needs healing and the version of you that needs refining. We often pray for God to change our situation, but in the waiting, he's more focused on changing us. You're praying for the blessing, but he's working on the blueprint. He's building something inside you that will outlast the season you're in. The waiting season is not wasted time. It's work in time. It's where your roots grow deeper, your faith grows stronger, and your character grows sharper. You may not see it happening, but growth is not always visible. It's like the process of a butterfly. The caterpillar has become beautiful overnight. It has to go through the cocoon, dark, still unseen. In that space, it looks like nothing's happening, but transformation is taking place. And when it emerges, it's unrecognizable. That's what God is doing with you. The waiting is your cocoon. It's the place where the old you dies so the new you can rise. We live in a world that hates waiting. Everything is instant messages, instant meals, instant validation. But God doesn't rush transformation. He values process over performance. He's not interested in you looking ready. He's interested in you being ready. Because what comes too soon won't last. If you step into your promise before you've developed the maturity to handle it, the very thing you prayed for can become the thing that crushes you. So God, in his mercy, delays the arrival so he can complete the becoming. In the waiting, God often strips away the things you used to depend on. The people, the patterns, the plans, all of it starts to shift. Not because he's punishing you, but because he's purifying you. You can't carry old weight into new seasons. Some of the loneliness you feel isn't abandonment, it's adjustment. God is adjusting your circle, refining your motives, and teaching you to rely on him in a way you never have before. The waiting exposes what you cling to, and it invites you to cling to him instead. Becoming who you're meant to be in the waiting means learning to trust God even when you can't trace Him. It's having faith that what feels like silence is actually strategy. He's working behind the scenes, aligning the details, setting the stage, and strengthening your spirit. The waiting is His workshop. That's where He builds endurance in you. That's where He grows your patience, your prayer life, your discernment. Because destiny requires discipline, and waiting seasons are where discipline is developed. Sometimes the waiting feels unfair. You see other people doing what you've been praying for, and it hurts. You congratulate them, but inside you wonder, God, when is it going to be my turn? But don't mistake someone else's moment for your missed opportunity. God's timeline is tailor-made. Just because it's their time doesn't mean you've been forgotten. It means your time is still being formed. He's writing a story so specific, so detailed, that when it unfolds, you'll understand why it had to take this long. Waiting also teaches humility. It reminds you that you're not in control, and that's a good thing. Because if you were, you'd probably settle for something smaller than what God has planned. The waiting protects you from premature decisions and incomplete blessings. It gives you time to grow into the kind of person who can steward success with grace and gratitude. The waiting builds you. There's beauty in becoming because it forces you to lean into grace. You learn to forgive yourself for what you didn't know before. You learn to be gentle with your process. You realize that growth isn't linear. It's layered. Some days you'll feel like you're thriving, and other days you'll feel like you're breaking. But both are part of becoming. You can't rush the masterpiece. God is painting something intricate with your life, and every stroke, the dark ones and the bright ones, are necessary to complete the picture. If you're in the waiting right now, don't despise it. Ask God, what are you teaching me here? Who am I becoming in this? Because every season has a purpose, even the ones that don't feel productive. The waiting is where wisdom grows. It's where you learn how to depend on God more than outcomes. It's where you find peace in uncertainty. And when you come out on the other side, you'll realize that the waiting wasn't about holding you back. It was about preparing you to step forward as your fullest self. Think about David again. Before he was king, he was a shepherd. Before he held the crown, he held a sling. His waiting season was not glamorous, but it was necessary. It was in those quiet fields that he learned courage, humility, and worship. The waiting made him. And when his moment came, he was ready, not because of the spotlight, but because of the solitude. That's the power of the waiting. It doesn't just prepare you for what's next. It prepares you for who you're called to be when you get there. Becoming who you're meant to be in the waiting means you stop measuring progress by speed and start measuring it by surrender. It's not about how fast you move, but how deeply you trust. Because at the end of the day, God is less concerned with where you're going and more concerned with who you're becoming on the way there. So hold your head up in the wait and stop thinking you're behind. Stop assuming the silence means failure. God hasn't forgotten you. He's forming you. Every delay has design. Every pause has purpose. And every moment you spend in the waiting is shaping the version that will step confidently into your destiny. One day, you'll look back on this season and realize it was sacred. You'll see that the waiting was never wasted. It was the place where you learned to listen, where you found your voice, where your faith became unshakable. You'll understand that who you became in the waiting was far more valuable than what you were waiting for. Because God's goal has never been to rush you. It's been to raise you. And when you finally walk into what He's promised, you'll walk in as someone new, stronger, wiser, deeper, and completely transformed. If there's one thing this entire message has been trying to tell you, it's this: you are right where you need to be. You're not behind. You're not forgotten. You're not being punished. You're being positioned. Everything you've been walking through, the pauses, the detours, the silence, the waiting, it's all part of a divine process that God Himself designed just for you. You may not have understood every moment, but God never wasted one. He's been aligning things behind the scenes, shaping your character, deepening your roots, and preparing your heart for what's next. You thought you were stuck, but God said, "No, I'm planting you." You thought you were delayed, but He said, "I'm developing you." You thought it was over, but He said, "I'm just getting started." Times. The greatest faith you can have isn't in what you see, but in what you still believe even when you can't see it. Because trust doesn't need understanding to exist. It just needs surrender. Trust says, even when I don't know how this will turn out, I believe that God is still good, still faithful, still working. You've been walking through seasons that didn't make sense, routes that felt like setbacks, and pauses that broke your patience. But hear me, every tear, every test, every trial has been shaping you into the person who can stand in the fullness of what God promised. This is not wasted space. This is sacred space. It's holy ground disguised as hardship. And the fact that you're still standing proves that grace has been carrying you all along. Don't rush this process. Don't despise this season. What looks like stillness is actually strategy. What feels like silence is setup. God is not done with you. He's developing a story that's going to reveal his glory through your life. And when it all unfolds, it won't just make sense, it will make you stronger. You'll realize the waiting built your wisdom, the wilderness built your worship, and the delay built your destiny. So hold your head high. Stop apologizing for your pace. Stop questioning your progress. God's hand is still on you even here. You're right where you need to be for him to show himself mighty. You're right where you need to be for his promise to come to pass. You're right where you need to be for his power to be revealed in your story. Because when the appointed time comes, and God will come, everything that was once confusing will become clear. Everything that felt heavy will turn into testimony. And you'll see that God didn't forget you. He was forming you. He didn't abandon you. He didn't miss your moment. You were maturing for it. So breathe, be still. Rest in the truth that your current position is not a mistake. It's divine placement. Heaven has you right where you're supposed to be. And soon, when the time is right, the same God who began this work in you will finish it beautifully, completely, and right on time. Somebody needs to declare it over their life right now. I'm right where I need to be. Say it until your spirit believes it. Say it until your fear releases it. Say it until your faith rises again. Because this right here, right now, is not the end. It's the beginning of everything God has been preparing you for. You're not late. You're aligned. You're not overlooked. So stay planted. Stay patient. Stay faithful. Because when God moves, and he will, you'll see that every second of your waiting, every tear you cried, every season you thought broke you was actually birthing you. And the world will see the glory of a God who finishes what he starts.